Ladies, I want to speak to you straight today, the way it needs to be said, because too many women are living confused, doubting themselves, and questioning their worth. When a man disappears from their lives, you see, it happens more often than you realize. He's texting less, calling less, and sometimes he vanishes completely. Your heart races, your mind spins, and you start asking the same questions over and over. Did he stop loving me? Uh, did I do something wrong? But let me tell you something you need to hear. When a man truly loves you, sometimes disappearing is not about losing interest. It's about the intensity of his feelings, the depth of the connection, and the way your presence makes him face parts of himself he's not ready to confront. A man disappears for reasons you may not even realize. Sometimes it's fear. Fear of loving too deeply. Fear of not being enough. Fear of failing you. Sometimes it's personal growth. He needs to step back and prove himself and become a man worthy of the woman standing in front of him. Sometimes it's simply the pressure of seeing a woman who is too consistent, too loyal, and too valuable, and he panics because he feels he cannot match her energy. Today, we are going to break it down. We are going to uncover the truths that most women don't understand about why a man disappears. How his mind works when love becomes real, and how you can protect your heart, maintain your dignity, and use your silence and self-respect as the most powerful tools in your relationship. By the end of this talk, you'll see things clearly. First, you'll stop blaming yourself, and you'll understand that a man who truly loves, you will always find his way back. Men disappear when their feelings go deeper than they expected. A man can stand in front of the world with courage, with confidence, with strength. But when it comes to his emotions, when it comes to the kind of feelings that shake him at his core, he becomes a completely different version of himself. This is the part women often misunderstand. Not because women are wrong, but because men rarely express what's happening inside them. They don't talk about it, they don't show it, and they definitely don't admit it. But the truth is simple. When a man's feelings go deeper than he ever planned, deeper than he thought he was ready for, deeper than he ever allowed himself to feel before, he disappears. Not because he wants to walk away, not because he wants someone else, not because he's done with you. He disappears because he wasn't expecting the emotional weight that comes with genuinely caring for a woman who carries real value, real depth. A man can handle casual attention, surface level, affection, flirting, even intimacy. Those things don't scare him. What scares him is the feeling that he can fall harder than he intended, harder than he ever has, and harder than he knows how to manage. He feels the ground shift beneath him, and instead of stepping forward, he steps back, not to run from you, but to run from the version of himself he isn't sure he's ready to meet. See, men are raised with a silent script. Be tough, be strong, don't get too emotional, don't lose control. Please control. So, when he starts catching feelings he didn't prepare for, feelings that make him imagine a future, feelings that make him check his phone waiting for your text, feelings that make him want to protect you, support you, and commit to you, that script starts the truth about his absence breaking. And when a man feels his emotional guard collapsing, he reacts the only way he's been conditioned to react, by retreating. His silence is not emptiness, it's confusion. His disappearance is not rejection, it's shock. He disappears because he wasn't prepared to feel this much, this fast, this deep, fast, this deep. There is something that happens inside a man when he starts falling for a woman who touches his soul. Suddenly, his habits don't feel the same. His routine doesn't feel the same. Even his priorities start shifting. He starts thinking about what he's doing with his life. He starts questioning whether he's ready for the level of honesty, vulnerability, and involvement that comes with loving a woman like you. And for a man who has lived guarded, controlled, independent, or emotionally closed for years, that shift feels overwhelming. Love, real love, makes him feel exposed. It makes him feel like he could lose control of a life he spent years trying to maintain. When he feels this, he disappears. Not because he doesn't care, but because he cares too much and doesn't know how to operate inside that feeling. He steps back to regain emotional balance, to breathe, to process, to understand what's happening to him. He needs space not from you, but from the intensity of his own feelings. You didn't do something wrong. You didn't pressure him. You didn't overstep. The connection simply went deeper than his emotional experience has ever gone, and he wasn't ready for that depth. A man's disappearance often has nothing to do with you and everything to do with his internal fight. He starts worrying whether he can meet your expectations, whether he can be consistent, whether he'll disappoint you, whether he's enough. Men don't disappear because a woman is too much. They disappear because she's exactly the type of woman who exposes the parts of him he has never dealt with. You bring out his softness, his vulnerability, his fear, his desire, his longing. And those emotions are powerful enough to shake him. So when a man disappears as his feelings deepen, it's not a sign that he's over you. It's a sign that you triggered something real inside him. Something he didn't plan for, something he doesn't yet understand. He must face himself before he knows how to face you. He must process the shift inside him before he can step forward again. And sometimes the silence you receive is not abandonment. It is the sound of a man trying to navigate emotions he's never learned to handle. Women connect fast, men process slow. When it comes to emotional connection, men and women often move at completely different speeds. And this difference creates confusion, doubt, and unnecessary heartbreak, especially for women. Women connect fast not because they are desperate, needy, or overly emotional, but because they are naturally wired to feel deeply, intuitively, and wholeheartedly. When a woman likes a man, she doesn't just see his face or hear his words. She scans his soul. She feels his intentions, his tone, his presence. She picks up on connection the way a heart picks up a rhythm. For her, the emotional link forms quickly because she leads with her heart. Her instinct signs he truly loves you even when gone in her emotional intelligence. A woman's emotions don't ask for permission. They flow, they move, they attach. When she feels a spark, she allows it. When she sees potential, she embraces it. When something feels real, she leans into it. She has spent her whole life nurturing connections with friends, family, co-workers, even strangers. Emotional connection is not new territory for her. It's familiar ground. She knows how to open her heart without losing herself, and she knows how to care deeply even before she has all the answers. This natural ability makes her connect fast, and it is not a weakness, it is her superpower. Men, however, operate from a different emotional system. A man can feel attraction instantly, desire quickly, curiosity immediately, but connection takes time. Not because he doesn't care, not because he isn't interested, and not because he is playing games. He processes slowly because his emotional wiring was built to protect him from vulnerability. Men are taught from a young age to be cautious with their feelings, to stay in control, to avoid getting overwhelmed, and to think before they leap. So even when he genuinely feels something for a woman, a man needs time to understand, interpret, and trust those feelings. A woman may feel this is right, while a man may think, is this safe? A woman may think, I want to invest, while a man may think, oh. A woman may sense a future while a man evaluates the present. This difference doesn't mean he is slow because he doesn't care. It means he slows down because he does. A man who feels nothing can move fast, but a man who feels something real often pulls back not to distance himself from the woman, but to examine the intensity of what he's experiencing. He is not just falling for her. He is analyzing himself. He is questioning his readiness, his capacity, his stability, his past patterns, and even his future. He wants to make sure that if he lets himself go deeper, he won't fail her or disappoint himself. Women bond emotionally first. Men bond emotionally last. A woman's heart leads the way. A man's mind must clear the path before his heart follows. This is why you'll often notice that women catch feelings early, but men fall in love later, harder. When a woman connects, she allows the connection to grow with presence, communication, and emotional availability. But when a man processes slowly, he moves in stages, feeling, thinking, questioning, evaluating. And once he reaches clarity, he loves with a depth that is steady, anchored, and committed. This difference in timing creates tension. Women wonder why he hasn't opened up yet. Why he hasn't labeled the relationship, why he hasn't moved as fast as she feels the chemistry. But what she sees as hesitation is often calculation, not avoidance. He isn't doubting her. He's trying to understand himself. He's trying to make sure his heart and life are aligned before he steps forward. When a woman connects too fast for his emotional pace, he may step back, not because he wants distance, but because he's trying not to hurt her by moving impulsively. His slow processing protects her, not himself. He wants to why distance can be a form of love, be sure that his intentions match his action, that his emotions match his readiness, and that his words won't turn into disappointments later. A man who processes slowly is trying to show up the right way, not the fast way. Women must understand this timing difference not as rejection but as rhythm. Emotional connection between a man and a woman is like a dance. She steps forward softly, emotionally, openly. He steps forward cautiously, thoughtfully. But once he catches the rhythm and trusts the music, he becomes Alan J. And when a man finally connects after processing, after evaluating, after understanding, his connection is not temporary or fragile. It is fear, steady, loyal, and deeply rooted. Women connect fast because they feel safe in love. Men process slow because they want to feel safe before they love. And once a man finishes processing, the love he gives is a kind a woman never has to question. Sometimes a man disappears to improve himself. Sometimes a man steps back not because he's done with you, not because he's lost interest, and not because there's someone else. He disappears because loving you makes him face parts of himself he's not proud of, not ready for, or not willing to expose yet. When a man meets a woman who carries real value, real depth, and real emotional power, he begins to see himself through her eyes. Suddenly, he notices the gaps he ignored. He feels the flaws he buried. He recognizes the weaknesses he pretended didn't exist. And for a man who wants to be the best version of himself, that realization is loud. Louder than your words, louder than his emotions, and louder than the connection itself. A man who truly cares steps back to improve. Not because he wants distance from you, but because he wants to close the distance between who he is today and who he knows he needs to become for a woman like you. He starts thinking about his responsibilities, his finances, his habits, his discipline, his emotional maturity, his purpose, and even his past mistakes. The pressure isn't coming from you. It's coming from the standard he believes you deserve. And instead of dragging you into his chaos or giving you half of himself, he chooses to disappear so he can return as someone complete, not someone confused. Men have always been conditioned to provide, protect, and lead. Even today, even if society has changed, those instincts haven't. A good man wants to feel like he can offer stability, not stress, consistency, not confusion, progress, not problems. And when he senses that he isn't living up to that standard, when he feels like you deserve a version of him he hasn't become yet, he pulls away to rebuild himself quietly. Not every man wants to heal in front of someone. Not every man knows how to grow while staying emotionally available. Sometimes stepping back is the only way he knows how to confront his own failures without feeling judged, pressured, or exposed. Women often misunderstand this because women grow differently. Women can evolve while loving, while communicating, while being present. But men often grow in silence, in solitude, and in distance. They don't improve through talking. They improve through action. They don't heal through conversation. They heal through fixing what's broken inside them. A man who sees his flaws, emotional independence, and self-respect clearly becomes uncomfortable showing them to the woman he cares for. He doesn't want her to see him weak, unstable, lost, or unfocused. He wants her to see him strong, capable, decisive, and intentional. So he disappears not as an escape, but as preparation. When a man steps back to improve, he's fighting battles you may never hear about. He's confronting childhood wounds, financial stress, insecurity, fear of failure, pressure to succeed, and emotional habits he never learned to manage. He's trying to prove to himself that he is worthy of the love he feels for you. He wants to come back able to lead instead of follow, able to contribute instead of drain, and able to stand beside you instead of leaning on you for everything. And this improvement isn't superficial, it's deep. He thinks about what kind of man he wants to be. A loyal man, a stable man, a consistent man, a man with direction, a man with future plans, a man who can offer partnership instead of pulling you into problems you didn't create. He distances himself because he wants to fix the very things that could eventually hurt you. He thinks long term, even when he doesn't say it out loud. Women often ask if he cared, why didn't he stay? But for some men, staying while broken feels disrespectful. I'd rather disappear and come back as someone they can be proud of someone you can trust, someone who can stand firm. His silence is him rebuilding. His distance is him restructuring. His absence is him transforming. Understand this. A man who disappears to improve himself is not abandoning the connection. He is protecting it. He wants to make sure that when he stands in front of you again, he can look you in the eye and know he has something real to offer, something strong, something reliable. He steps back because he wants the next version of himself to match the value he sees in you. When you give too much, he panics. There is a kind of fear that rises inside a man, not when a woman withdraws, but when she gives too much. It's a fear he rarely admits, rarely understands, and almost never explains. Women often believe giving more and more love, more support, more loyalty, more consistency will make him feel secure, appreciated, and loved. But for many men, especially those who are emotionally unprepared or internally insecure, the opposite happens. The more you give, the more he starts to feel something he never expected, pressure. Not the pressure you think, not pressure from you, but pressure from within himself, pressure to rise to your level, pressure to match your consistency, pressure to return the same kind of effort that you give so naturally. And when he realizes he can or won't, he panics. A man knows when he is receiving more than he can offer. He knows when he is being loved in a way he doesn't feel ready to reciprocate. He knows when your loyalty, patience, and emotional availability are far greater than what he's prepared to give back. And instead of stepping up, many men step back. Not because they don't want you, not because your love is a burden, and not because you're too much, but because your giving exposes their shortage. It highlights their inconsistency. It reminds them of the emotional work they never did, the goals they haven't reached, the maturity they haven't developed. Some men panic because they feel undeserving. They look at you the way you care, the way you show up, the way you invest and think. She deserves how to handle his disappearance with grace better than what I'm right now. It's not arrogance. It's inadequacy. He senses the quality of the woman in front of him. And instead of rising into that standard, he retreats out of fear of disappointing you. And if he's never experienced a healthy, stable, emotionally secure relationship before, your care feels foreign, uncomfortable, overwhelming. So instead of embracing it, he distances himself from it. Not because the love is wrong, but because it feels too right. When you give too much too soon, a man often interprets it differently than you intend. You see it as love, effort, connection. He sees it as responsibility he may not feel prepared to carry. Suddenly, every good morning text feels like a commitment. Every thoughtful gesture feels like a milestone. Every act of affection feels like a step deeper into something he's still trying to mentally process. You're already emotionally there. He's still at the beginning running calculations in his mind about whether he can sustain what you naturally offer. And when those calculations don't bring him clarity, fear takes over. Women give out of abundance. Men give out of readiness. That difference creates emotional imbalance. A woman's heart knows how to love early. A man's heart learns how to love gradually. So when you give too much before he's ready, he doesn't interpret it as generosity. He interprets it as acceleration. He starts feeling like the relationship is moving faster emotionally than he can keep up with mentally. And instead of communicating that, he's overwhelmed. Instead of telling you he needs time. Instead of being honest, he shuts down, withdraws, or disappears. It's not maturity, but it is a real male pattern. When you give too much, he also fears expectations. Even if you don't say it, he assumes you'll eventually want the same effort back. He assumes you'll want emotional consistency, time, commitment, and depth he isn't sure he can sustain yet. And because he doesn't want to let you down, he chooses to step away rather than stay and fail. It's a defense mechanism disguised as distance. A panic response that makes him pull back so he doesn't fall short. And let's be honest, some men panic because they know they've been benefiting from your effort without matching it. They know they enjoy the affection, attention, and emotional comfort you provide, but they also know they're not giving you the same. Your giving forces them to face their own selfishness. Your consistency exposes their inconsistency. Your loyalty highlights their lack of commitment. And instead of leveling up, they retreat to avoid accountability. They'd rather lose you quietly than grow loudly. Understand this deeply. When you give too much, you don't scare a man away because you're overwhelming. You scare him away because he realizes he cannot meet the standard of the woman standing in front of him. He panics because he sees his reflection in your love, and that reflection shows everything he hasn't fixed yet. Men don't run from love. They run from the responsibility that real love demands. And when your giving surpasses his readiness, he chooses the easiest path, distance. Not because you gave too much, but because he gave too little. A man always returns when he realizes you're valuable, not desperate. There's a shift that happens inside a man when he practical steps to stay confident and empowered. Finally sees the truth about the woman he once took for granted, misunderstood, underestimated, or wasn't ready for. That shift doesn't happen when you chase and beg for him, explain yourself to him, or try to force him to see your worth. It happens when you step back in silence, when you choose dignity over desperation, when you stop proving yourself and when you start living your life without waiting for him to validate it. A man returns not to a woman who needs him, but to a woman who stands strong without him. Value is magnetic. Desperation repels. Oh. A woman who knows her value doesn't fight for space in a man's life. She chooses where she wants to be. She doesn't beg for love. She attracts it. She doesn't collapse when he leaves. She evolves. And men feel that. They feel the difference between a woman who demands attention and a woman who commands it. When you step into your worth, when your silence becomes stronger than your words, when your presence becomes more powerful than your pursuit, that's when a man wakes up. A man always returns when he realizes you weren't trying to trap him, you were trying to love him. You weren't asking for too much. You were asking for the bare minimum. You weren't trying to control him. You were offering consistency. And instead of recognizing it in the moment, he let fear, confusion, or immaturity get in the way. But as time passes, he begins to compare. He starts meeting other women. He starts experiencing shallow connection. He starts noticing how rare consistency actually is and how uncommon genuine care has become. Suddenly, the things he took lightly become the things he craves. And slowly, he sees what he walked away from. Men don't learn through words. They learn through experience and absence. When you stop giving him emotional backup, stop being his comfort zone, stop being available at every moment, he starts feeling what life is like without your energy. That absence hits him in the quiet hours and the lonely nights, in the moments when he needs someone to confide in and realizes he no longer has access to you. That's when the internal shift happens. He doesn't remember the arguments, the misunderstandings, or the tension. He remembers your softness, your patience, your presence, the way you made life calmer, the way you tried to understand him when he didn't even understand himself. But here's the deeper truth. A man doesn't return because he misses having a woman. He returns because he misses you, specifically you. The way you listened, the way you supported, the way you loved without pretending, the way you brought peace where others brought chaos, the way you gave him honesty when others gave him ego games. But most of all, he returns because he finally realizes that your value wasn't rooted in how much you gave him. It was rooted in how little you needed him to validate your worth. When you are not desperate, you show him something rare. Desperation screams, "Please choose me. Please choose me." Value whispers, "I choose myself first." And that whisper is loud enough to echo in his heart long after you stop speaking. A man returns when he realizes that losing you wasn't just losing a relationship. It was losing access to a woman who elevated his life, his peace, and his emotional stability. He returns when he understands that the world is full of attention, but empty of genuine connection. He returns when your self-respect forces him to see you from a distance with clarity he never had while standing close. Sometimes he has to lose proximity to gain perspective. He has to lose your presence to understand your impact. He has to watch another man value you to understand how lucky he once was. He has to see you glow without him to realize the glow was never because of him. And once he sees that, once he feels that in his chest, he begins to circle back. Not as a man who wants to play, but as a man who finally understands. A woman's true power is not in how tightly she holds on. It's in how gracefully she lets go. Because letting go forces him to stand in front of a mirror he's been avoiding. It shows him who he is without you. It shows him what he destroyed through immaturity, and it shows him what he could still rebuild if he grows enough to deserve it. A man real-life examples and stories always returns when he realizes you were never desperate for him. You were simply offering love. And nothing pulls a man back harder than the realization that he walked away from a woman who didn't need him, but valued him enough to try or martyr while. There comes a time in every woman's life When she realizes that talking, explaining, proving, convincing, none of it works the way she hoped. You can text in paragraphs, you can call him, you can ask him what's wrong. But a man who is drifting away does not come closer because you spoke more. He comes closer when something inside him wakes up. And nothing wakes a man up faster than a woman who suddenly becomes silent, calm, and full of self-respect. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. Silence is strength. Silence is the moment a man realizes he is no longer the center of your world. And that feeling hits him harder than any emotional message ever could. When a woman steps back with dignity, something powerful happens. The energy shifts. He was used to you being available, being warm, being responsive. He was used to you carrying the emotional weight of the connection. But when you stop doing that, when you stop chasing a man who isn't showing up for you, he suddenly feels the emptiness your presence used to fill. Every man feels it. Men don't always show it, but they feel it deeply. Your silence becomes a mirror, forces him to look at his own behavior, his own distance, his own inconsistencies. It forces him to admit what he has been avoiding, that he might lose a woman who actually cared for him. And men fear that more than they ever admit out loud. Words give him comfort. Silence gives him consequences. When you stay silent, you're telling him without speaking, I'm not begging for love. I'm not fighting to keep someone who isn't fighting for me. I choose myself. That message shakes a man. It makes him question everything. It makes him reflect, replay moments, analyze details he ignored. He remembers your kindness. He remembers your support. He remembers how you made him feel safe. But more than anything, he notices your absence. Your silence becomes loud in his life, louder than your words ever were. It travels into his mind when he tries to sleep. It follows him through his day. And it reminds him that you were never the problem. He was. A man cannot connect to a woman he takes for granted. He connects to the woman he realizes he could lose. Silence creates that realization. It gives a man time to understand your worth instead of being distracted by the ease of your presence. And when a woman stays silent, she stops reacting emotionally. She stops giving the comfort of knowing she's waiting. She stops explaining her value and starts living it. That's when your power becomes undeniable. Because a woman who respects herself is a woman a man can't forget. He may walk away temporarily. He may pull back out of fear or confusion, but he will always remember closing thoughts and find motivation, the woman who didn't break her dignity for him. Self-respect changes the entire dynamic. When a woman continues her life, focuses on her growth, invests in her happiness, and refuses to beg for attention, she becomes magnetic. Men are naturally drawn to strength, elegance, emotional control. They may chase fun, but they commit to depth. And nothing shows depth like a woman who can stay calm while he retracts. Your silence tells him that you have standards, boundaries, and a backbone. You are not threatened by losing him because you know you never lose what is meant for you. You only lose what was never strong enough to stay. Your silence also teaches a man how to treat you. It shows him you're not available at any time under any conditions. It shows him that effort is required. Presence is necessary and consistency matters. When you speak too much, he gets comfortable. When you fall silent, he gets curious. When you chase, he runs. When you stand still, he reconsiders. Silence flips the script because it makes him confront his feelings instead of escaping them. And the moment he realizes you're no longer trying to hold things together, he feels that shift in his chest. He remembers who you were to him. He sees the emotional gap your energy used to fill, and that's when he comes back. Not because you begged, not because you convinced him, but because your silence created space for clarity. He sees your value, your strength, your peace, and understands that losing a woman like you would be a mistake he would regret. So yes, your silence and self-respect speak louder than any emotional outburst ever could. They remind him that you are a woman who chooses love, but never at the cost of herself. And that truth, more than anything else, is what pulls a man back with sincerity, intention, and real commitment. Ladies, let me leave you with this. Your power was never in how much you gave, how much you explained, or how hard you tried. Your real power has always been in who you are when you choose yourself. When a man pulls away, when he disappears, when he leaves you confused and questioning your worth. Remember this, his behavior is not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of his readiness, his maturity, and his capacity to love. A woman who knows her worth does not chase. She does not beg. She does not collapse just because someone couldn't recognize her heart. She steps back. She breathes. She rebuilds because she understands that love is only meaningful when it comes with consistency, respect, and presence. And here's the truth. The right man will never be lost by your silence. The wrong man will never be kept by your effort. Your job is not to convince someone to choose you. Your job is to choose yourself so powerfully that the ones who are meant for you rise to meet you. Stand tall, stay peaceful, protect your heart. Your silence, your strength, and your self-respect will always bring the right love back or make the wrong one disappear for a distance.